All right, this morning, um, I've been reading over in Luke and looking at some of Jesus' talkings. I wanted to read something over in Luke chapter 6, starting at 39 and going down through 49 right there, just those 10. And looking at what Jesus is talking about, it's always got me, are they jumping around? Because you'll see how he starts with one thing, then goes something else and something else. And there's some people that believe that there's taking a lot of different teachings and they're piecing them together. But I don't agree with that, because if so, then all these teachings would not be combined whenever you look back in Matthew chapter 7 when he's talking about the exact same things. Because all of them are right there as well. Because you have Matthew who's writing on his own to the Hebrews, and all this is at one time, where Luke is writing to the Gentiles, and it's all at one time. The other theory that they have is that it's a different type of teaching. One that goes in the Jewish tradition is charaz, charas, which means like a string of pearls. If you look at the definition of the word, and the rabbis will say don't dwell on one topic too long because people lose interest. So give them a short time on one topic and then move to another topic so you can get the most information out and you don't lose their interest. However, nowadays, how we're taught is that if you do that, then you're going to be all over the place. Nobody's going to be able to follow you, and it sounds like it's just like all out of place. I believe he was doing that, but in a deeper tone. I believe he was using their way of teaching, but he was using what they're used to, whether it's growing, whether it's building a house or teaching. And he's using all these different scenarios to teach them what the message he's trying to show them in their own language, because they weren't ready for the deeper stuff. And even though it looks like it's all over the place, whenever you step back and look, it all fits together for one message. And I think it's really neat whenever we do that. It's just like a building. One person working on the foundation, one on the plumbing, one on the electricity, one on the roof. And they're all doing their own thing, their own parts. But then when they come together, it's one whole building. About with the military, everybody's got their own functions that they do. They don't have to know anyone else's. And the only thing they have to concentrate on is doing what's right in front of them to the best of their ability. And if everybody does just their part, then whenever it's all pieced together, it comes to a beautiful orchestra that gets anything done. And anything that comes at them, they'll be able to survive. It can go into an individual, it can go into a family, it can go into a group, whether it's military, whether it's a church, whether it's a government, you name it. If everybody comes together and they do their part to the best of their ability, for good. But let's go ahead and get into some of the scriptures here. Luke chapter 7, verse 39 says, and he also spoke a parable to them, and then it starts in red. And I was always taught that if it's in red, that means it's very important, because the one that we say is our Lord and our God, this was him speaking to us in his words. So we want to make very, very special attention to that. So this is important. It says, a blind man cannot guide a blind man, can he? Will they not both fall into the pit? A pupil is not above his teacher, but everyone after he has been fully trained will be like his teacher. And why do you look at the speck that is in your brother's eye, but do not notice the log that is in your own eye? Or how can you say to your brother, let me take out the speck that is in your eye, when you yourself do not see the log that is in your own eye? You hypocrite. First, take out the log out of your own eye, and then you will see clearly to take out the speck that is in your brother's eye. For there is no good tree which produces bad fruit, nor, on the other hand, a bad tree which produces good fruit. For each tree is known by its own fruit. For men do not gather figs from thorns, nor do they pick grapes from a briar bush. The good man out of the good treasure of his heart brings forth what is good, and the evil man out of the evil treasure brings forth what is evil. For his mouth speaks from that which fills his heart. And why do you call me Lord, Lord, and do not do what I say? Everyone who comes to me and hears my words and acts upon them, I will show you whom he is like. He is like a man building a house who dug deep and laid a foundation upon the rock. And when the flood arose, the torrent burst against the house and could not shake it, because it had been well built. But the one who has heard and has not acted accordingly is like a man who built a house upon the ground without any foundation, and the torrent burst against it, and immediately it collapsed, and the ruin of that house was great. And I'm telling you, just listen to all these different things in that little bit, it sounds like he's all over the place. You know, we start up here, a blind man cannot guide a blind man. You know, he's asking the question, can you? Will they not both fall into a pit? A pupil is not above his teacher, but everyone after he has been fully trained will be like his teacher. All right, basically, if you're sitting under someone for knowledge, if you're going to someone to be taught, if you're going to a seminary, you're going to a college, you're going to school, you will never be greater in knowledge than what the teacher that's teaching you is. Because that's all the knowledge you're listening to right then. If that teacher has all the book knowledge in the world for commentaries and how to dissect words, Hebrew, Greek, and they're in a seminary, then they can teach you how to see what these words are saying. But if they do not have the experience of a relationship with the Lord himself, then they cannot dig deeper than the words. They cannot dig into the meaning because they don't have that experience. So you will never have that experience of knowing any deeper than the words if you're sitting under that teacher. However, whenever we take what we can from one teacher and we put it with the teachings of another teacher that has the experience, now we can get even greater than that one. Because we can grow in it. It's just like when we're teaching. We want to continue to grow in learning so we can get more out. Think of it like you can hear of something someone does. And it paints a picture of who this person is. However, whenever you go and you actually meet with this person, spend time with this person, and have a fellowship with this person, now you get to see his heart and who he truly is. And you get a deeper understanding, you can learn more because you're going to the source. Well, that's the same thing when it comes to learning about God. We can sit down underneath someone, but we're only ever going to know as much as what they know or what they've experienced. But whenever we get that fellowship and we dig into it ourselves, now there's no limit to how much knowledge we can get and how much experience. And then he moves right on over into, and why do you look at the specking that is in your brother's eyes and not notice the log that is in your own? How can you say to your brother, let me take out the speck in yours, when you yourself do not see become the log in your own? And then he calls him a hypocrite. Now the word hypocrite at that time and age, that's what you call an actor that would go on stage and they would put a mask on to pretend one way, and then they'll go back off and they put another mask on to act as a different part. That is a true definition of a hypocrite back there when they're using this. So he's saying you're acting like you don't have anything wrong with you. You're looking at all the faults of your brother, but you yourself have faults. We all do. And a lot of times, that beam that we have in our eye, we're seeing that in the mirror and we're finding it in someone else. My wife's known for me to say this. Inside everything good, you can find something bad. Inside anything bad, you can find something good. Whatever you're looking for, that's what you're going to find. I don't care if it's a person, I don't care if it's a situation, I don't care where you're at and how it applies in your life. If you're looking for something positive, you're going to be able to find something positive. Even if it's about the way someone smiles, or the way they whistle, or the way they take criticism. But if you're looking for something negative, it will always be there. But if we want to take that negative and use it to find fault in someone else, then we have to see just where that fault is within our own self. Because we all have faults. And that's what he's saying. Don't be so hasty to judge someone else because you're looking through glasses that's tinted with your own interpretation of the way things should be, without looking back at yourself. And then he goes on into the fruit that we bear. Good tree, there is no good tree that produces bad fruit. On the other hand, no bad tree produces good fruit. It's been said that a student once told the teacher they could not hear the words that she was saying because her actions was overworking it. They were listening to her actions more. And so doing, that's the same way we do. We can tell someone we love them, but if our actions does not portray it, then they're never going to believe it. We can tell someone we care about them, but if we don't act like we care about them, whether spending time with them, checking on them, or whatever, then they're not really going to believe it. All this comes together because it's within us. The last part right here, the good man out of the good treasure of his heart brings forth what is good, and the evil man out of the evil treasure brings forth what is evil. For his mouth speaks from that which fills his heart. I read this morning a way to test this. I never heard this before. Have you ever been asked for directions? Everyone has, right? All right. You can tell where your heart is by what comes out of your mouth first, without thinking. So someone asks me, "Hey, how do you get to this place?" And the first thing that comes out of my mouth, "Oh, you're going down there to this church, you're going to find on the corner, and you're going to make it." The first thing that comes to my mind is the church, right? But what about if I say, "Oh, you're going down the road, you're going to see a bar on this side of the road, then at this next bar, you're going to make a right." And you can see where my heart is, where I'm thinking about. Or a casino, or the clubs, whatever it may be, or footballs. But the first thing that comes out is usually what you're thinking about because it's what you've been noticing. Same way with life. The way we talk. The way we talk without thinking and judging, how is this person going to think about me if I say this? Whenever we get past that and we just start talking, then we find out where our heart really is. And then this last part's about building a house. "And why do you call me Lord, Lord, and do not do what I say?" Now, Lord means that you belong to him, that you're calling him, and he's taking ownership of this. And it says, "Everyone who comes to me," first you gotta come, "and hears my words and acts upon them, I will show you whom he is like." So you first have to come to him. So you don't go to the teachers. You don't go to the ones that's trying to change things like they were doing this time. The scribes was doing this left and right. The Sadducees, they did not want their offices taken away from them because it's comfort, it's money, it's power. And then the Pharisees, they just wanted to worship God the way they interpreted the laws. So don't take their word for it, but come to the source. Have a relationship with Him so that He can interpret the laws. Not me, not anyone, a teacher, not anyone else. That's the first thing. And then, hear my words. He gave us the scriptures. He was the first deity to ever give His likes and dislikes where people would know them. That's why the Jews still to this day hold the Torah in such high esteem. Because that was the first time any deity had spoke to them and gave mankind, this right here is my likes, this is my dislikes. You do this, then you'll draw closer to me. It's not that He's going to love you any more or any less if you don't do them. He loves each one of us equally. I don't care where we came from. However, He wants the best for us. Just like we want the best for our kids. We want the best for our families, for those that we love. And it's not like we want them to do what we say because we said it, but we want them to do what we say because we believe in our heart it's going to cause the best outcome for them. He wants us to do what's right by Him because He knows it's going to bring the best outcome for us and for those around us. So all these scriptures is His word. So first come to the source. Come to Him. Listen to His words. Read His words. Study them. See, there's a difference between listening and hearing someone. You can listen to them all day long and never hear what they're trying to say. But He wants us to come and hear His words. And then act upon them. Whenever I stopped running and I came back and I started reading this word all over again, I found out there's a whole lot of stuff that I only listened to and I wasn't hearing. And there was a lot of things in my life that I had to straighten up. And I had to say a prayer constantly. And I still need to. I often forget it. But I need to. And that is regardless of how I was taught, regardless of how I was raised, regardless of how I believe personally. Correct me where I'm wrong through your word and straighten me where I'm right by your word. When I used to do that, every time I've done that, and then I start reading His word, I grow and I see some of the things that I had slightly off. And I know that because I will start studying and flipping, using the references to go where it meant to say the same thing in the Old Testament, the New Testament, and all these other letters. Because if I believe that there was one author, 1,500 years, all these 66 books, 40 different writers, but one author, then that means it's going to have the same meaning from cover to cover. And if he started tying in Genesis, and he ends it in Revelation, and he only did it so that we can tell seasons as it states in Genesis, that means he's outside of time. That means he doesn't get old or young. He's outside of time. And that also means that he doesn't change. We change. But he doesn't. So we have to study to see exactly what he's saying to us, so that we can change ourselves to get better acquainted to Him. And then he tells about building a house. He said, the one that does these three things is like the man that digs down to a good foundation and builds a house on the rock. So that when the rivers come, or the Torah, however you pronounce that, it means river, the floods, then it will stand. But the ones that don't, it'll go away. So he's talking to the Palestine area here. How in the summertime, the river would dry up and leave all the sand there. And you didn't really know where the river's going to come. However, if you dug down, you could see the hard stone, the foundation. And if you built on that, then you'd be able to have a firm foundation for whenever the winter comes and the rain starts coming back down and the river starts building up and it starts washing everything that was built in the river away. Because there's a lot of people at this time that was losing their homes and everything they had put all their time and money and effort into was gone because the waters came, the times of life. song my dad used to sing was "This Old House." This old house wants to do my children. This old house wants to do my wife. So this old house is home and comfort as it walked the storms of life. But this old house, what it's talking about, as you start listening, is this flesh, this body that we're actually walking in right now. And the older it gets, it knows all this stuff. And the storms of life is coming at us left and right. We lose, we gain. Sooner or later, this whole house fades away. But what are you building your foundation on? I'll tell the people I talk to that you're a balancing act between your physical, your mental, and your spiritual. Some of the other forces I'll add social in on that. We can tell how someone changes whenever they get sick, when they get hungry. Their mood starts changing, and their attitude starts going. Mentally, whenever someone gets stressed out, whenever they start having anxiety, when they start getting depressed, the way they talk is going to change. So you can see both of these, how it's a balancing act within someone. But the spiritual, you can't really see. However, inside the spiritual realm that we all face and we all try to balance, that holds what we feel inside of our heart, what is right and wrong. It holds whether we believe there's an afterlife or whether we believe that once we die, that's it. And just think for a second, just those two things alone. Then that means we can eat, drink, be merry because tomorrow we die and it doesn't matter. Or we live now and because we know it's going to mount up to what we're going to be afterwards. The moral standard, what's right and wrong, how we get arguments from, because we believe that there's a right and wrong instilled in everyone. That alone, it tells us how we're going to live. Is it all right to cheat on our spouse? Is it all right to tell a little lie here and there? Is it all right to go and steal or cheat? Is it all right to murder? Is it all right to talk about someone or gossip about someone? All of this stuff is what our spiritual life entails. That's the reason why Paul also tells us not to be unequally yoked, because you'll see in married couples a lot of time, if you start asking them about their spiritual life, when you see them having all these issues, one cheating on another especially. It's like, well, what faith are you? And they might be founded in a believer but haven't been practicing. All right, what faith is your spouse? And if their spouse, a lot of times they won't even know if they haven't been practicing. So then you start breaking it down. If you believe that there's a right and wrong, and you're supposed to be this character, but your spouse does not, then they're okay doing any of this without any repercussions. You're not. And it was going to butt heads. You're going to be hurt. You have to have a firm foundation. That's what the spirituality does within our own self. And that's what it does within a married couple or a relationship on a group. You have to have bases, foundations, guidelines. And that's why our spirituality inside of us, it regulates. So that's why he's saying, build your house on a firm foundation. It's very easy. All these people did not know about the river when they came to Palestine. They'll see the sand, and it's so much easier to smooth out and start laying down your foundation. However, it took time. It took a lot of time to dig and seek for the stone underneath that sand. And then once you find it, to start carving out your foundation so you can set it down, a house that won't move and shift as the water washes the sand out from underneath you and takes everything away. The same thing with life. It's so easy to go with the ways of the world. It's so easy to respond with our emotions. That's human nature. We all want to. I don't care who we are. But it takes time to actually look at ourselves. It takes discipline. And it hurts a lot of times to tell ourselves that we're wrong about something and correct our own self. But what we're actually doing is we're trying to make a firm foundation that's going to stand whenever the rest of the world throws things at us. And that's what he's getting to here is the whole picture. the whole picture of building who you are, not just for this life, but for all lives, because this life and this flesh is going to throw all kind of things at you. But if you have that firm foundation that you can stand on, that will stand throughout all time, this life and the next, you don't have to worry about it. You're still going to go through pains. You're still going to go through hardships, but you know that the same one that brought you this far is right there waiting for you, no matter what comes. So, I think that's just the message for today is, let's make sure we're building that firm foundation in ourselves. Who we're listening to, who we're talking to, the way we talk to others. Listen to the words that we say, because it shows our heart and where our heart stands. And if you hear these telltale signs that your heart might not be founded totally on God, well, guess what? You're human. Whenever we find these things out, it's not that we're bad or that we lost our way. It's that, okay, well, maybe I need to get a little bit closer. So that's when we start seeking Him and finding out why. Ultimately, nobody answers to anyone else here, but we answer to just the one. And that's the one we call Lord. He's the only one that judges us in the end. Not anyone else, not a parent, not a child, not a boss, but Lord. So let's live our lives in a way that's pleasing to Him. And I told Him.